Hey all, it's Oren, the Art Concierge. I am joined today with Karen Bystedt, also known as KB. We're fortunate enough to have her here. Karen, can you let the people know who the you are?
So, Oren, we've known each other for a long time, and I saw your amazing soliloquy about art on Instagram, and I hit you up, and it's so good to see you again.
Yeah, it's great to see you. It's so serendipitous that you were actually right by me, and that's how we reconnected this past week. So I'm glad you were able to join me. I only know a handful of photographers, and out of those handful, I only know very few legends, and you're one of them. So I never really got to ask you because every time we've been together, it's been business. I'd love to know what made you pick up a camera. Was it an accident, or what made you go down that full path of being a photographer, professional photographer?
You know, I guess I'm just very instinctual, and I really follow my inner voice, and I think I started doing that at a young age. But what made me pick up a camera was actually a boyfriend. I had this boyfriend named Patrick, and he whisked me off to Paris for a few days. I know it sounds very
This guy's making it tough for all of us right now.
But anyway, he was very into fashion, and I remember he was into this particular designer called Kenzo, and he bought this suit, and then he also had a Leica camera, and he said, "Karen, would you take some pictures of me in these, clothes?" And so I did, and they came out great, and I was like, "Wow, this is kind of fun." And then I started buying Vogue Homme and all of these very cool French and Italian fashion magazines, and I started going through it and came back to NYU Film School and took a photography class.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Especially nowadays where everyone has a camera in their hand with a phone. I definitely understand what you're saying. It was kind of instinctual when you picked it up because it's like you picked it up because someone asked you to. Otherwise, everyone else kind of could see what they're doing with their phone. So that's pretty amazing that that happened. It was like literally meant to be in a way.
I think it was. It was just something I fell in love with, and then I started taking all my friends and setting them up as models on the streets and doing these kind of mock-up fashion shoots, and then I started embedding myself in the darkroom because in those days we worked with film.
Do you still work with film?
I don't, because I am a woman of the present.
Oh, okay. Very nice.
So I shoot digitally now.
When you started shooting, were you just shooting mainly people or scenery, or what did you start, or what caught your eye? What did you really take on first?
I definitely fell in love with fashion because I think I told you I was looking at fashion magazines. But what happened was, to cut to the chase, is someone recommended me to shoot this guy who needed some model test shoots, and he ended up taking them to Click Modeling Agency, and they loved the shots and asked me to come in to show my book.
You lived in New York still at that point?
I
or
lived
no?
in New York. I was still a student at NYU. I was going to be a film major, but I was kind of veering towards photography. And the head booker at Click said, "You're really talented, but you should only shoot men. You're much better with men.
Interesting.
So we will send you guys to test with if you want." And that's when I came up with the idea to do a book about male models.
What many people know you for is shooting a very famous male model, Andy Warhol. Can you talk about that experience a little bit and how that became?
Absolutely. So a lot of people don't know that Andy Warhol was a model, and I didn't know that either.
Sounds like a lot of people didn't know.
I didn't know either. I, knew he was a famous artist. I've grown up, with art my whole life. I knew about the soup cans, and when I lived in New York, I was one of those club kids who got into all the clubs, and I would see Andy standing around. And then one day I was looking through GQ and I saw this ad with Andy Warhol as a model. And I thought, oh my God, Andy's modeling? I need to get him for my book.
So the book you were doing was a book on male models.
That's right.
Okay, great. Who else did you shoot in that book?
A hockey player named Ron Greshner, but mostly it was the top male models of the time. I had two Calvin Klein guys. I had the Ralph Lauren guy. They were the guys that had the underwear ads in Times Square, and it was a time when men were becoming sex symbols again, and there was so much about female models, and I thought, oh, it would be cool to do something on male models.
What was the book called? That one?
It's called Not Just Another Pretty Face. People are reselling it. You can order it on Amazon.
And the shoot with Andy, how'd that go? Give us a little bit about his personality, because not a lot of people got to meet him, obviously, that are here around now. So what was that like?
I was very, very focused on this project, and I managed to get a literary agent and a publisher, NAL, Signet. And I don't know how I did that, Oren, but I did because I was just so tenacious. And with Andy, I knew that he was at Interview Magazine. And so I literally called and he answered the phone.
Really?
Believe it or not. I believe it's spiritual.
Back then, it's just Yellow Pages, Andy Warhol, first name, or how'd you get his number?
Interview Magazine. I think I got an Interview Magazine and called the number.
Oh, okay.
Apparently there were only 6 or 7 people in the office, but it was unusual that he answered the phone. And, I was taken aback, but I wanted him in this book. And I said, Mr. Warhol, this is Karen Hardy. That was my maiden name. I'm working on a book on male models, and I saw you in this Barney's ad, and I would really love to shoot you for my book on male models. And he said, really? Well, who else do you have? And I just rambled off a bunch of names, and he knew all of them because they were the biggest guys. He knew them, and actually years later, once I donated one of my photographs to the Warhol Museum, in the archives, I saw him interview some of these models. So after he heard the names, Oren, he said yes.
People tend to when they're in good company,
Yes, he wanted to be in that company. These were the top guys.
Yeah.
I don't know how I did it, but I did publish that book. I had a party, and Andy came.
So that was quite a party back then.
I published 2 of the photographs from that shoot. And I don't know, as you know, I lost some of those negatives.
Where did you shoot them at Interview Magazine?
I used to shoot most of these guys at sunset lighting with no shirts on. And most of them were athletes, and they were like rowers and volleyball players, and they were all from Ivy League schools. And of course, with Andy, I had to go to Interview Magazine. I also realized that he was a big artist. And so to honor him, I decided to rent a Hasselblad, which is a large format camera. And I had to get one of my classmates to come with to load the camera, which I didn't actually know how to load, and also help me set up the lighting because I knew this was going to be an indoor shoot. And so we arrived, and we were ushered into the conference room of Interview Magazine, and Andy was sitting there waiting. And he had dressed himself in a Perry Ellis suit. He was wearing jeans and a very neat wig. It was like, wow, here I am. But I was very focused, and my focus at that point was just to make him look as good as possible. And it was a bit of a challenge because I was used to that sunset lighting. And this was a harsher light. And so I saw that he was wearing a lot of pancake makeup. And I really wanted to smooth it out. So I had to take a moment. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to tell him. I want to help him with his makeup. So I took a tissue and I said, Mr. Warhol, would you mind if I just smooth out a little bit of this makeup? And he just... he was a bit taken aback, but he said, oh, okay. And he let me. And then I did 2 setups. One was a close-up, and one was a kind of a 3/4 waist up shot. And he proceeded to model for me. And so he did things like he did this, and he did this, and he did this. And then someone came in and interrupted our shoot. And so he went like this, or he looked over. And so I have this one shot where he looks very innocent and he's talking. At some point, he had this small American flag sitting on the table, and he went like this. And I snapped. And so I have a photograph of Andy holding the American flag.
Yeah, that's a great photo. You have a project called Lost Warhols. Where'd that come about, that name, that project, and why?
Yes. Well, the Lost Warhols has to do with the fact that I thought I lost all my negatives.
In general, all of them? Like,
Of
oh,
Andy
just of Andy.
specifically.
Oh, wow.
So I published the book. It was called Not Just Another Pretty Face. Andy was in it. We got a lot of press. The book did very well. We were in Good Morning America. They did not invite Andy to join at the time. Just the models and I. And then I went on to do another book called Boy Crazy, and then I went on to do like 3 more books on actors, The New Breed, Before They Were Famous, and They Dared to Dream. So I went on with other projects because that's just the type of person I am. And then years later, I saw this article in the Financial Times. It was the pink paper. And I loved it because it was pink and had very concise news. And there was an article that Andy had sold one of his self-portraits for $38 million. Of course, this is after he had died, but one of his portraits had died. And then I was like, oh my God, I photographed him. What is going? Where are my negatives? And so at that point, I went on a quest to look for them, and I was able to find 10 out of the 36.
And what did you do with those after you found them? What was the next step for Lost Warhols?
The next step was...
Did you know what you wanted to do after you found? Did you have like a plan?
You know, Oren, I believe that Andy Warhol, I believe it's spiritual. I think he's been guiding me. I immediately met someone from the archival department of the J. Paul Getty Museum who scanned those negatives and worked on making them pristine. And I came up with the creative decision to make him look as good as possible. But we worked on those negatives pixel by pixel. And I created the Lost Warhol collection, initially just the photographs, which were 10. And then an art connoisseur or an art advisor advised to contact the Warhol Museum. And they were like, well, we have thousands of pictures of Andy. We probably don't even want them. But go ahead and send them. And so I sent them, and Eric Schein, I got this email, well, okay, we love them. We'd love to have them. We don't buy photographs, but we'll fly you in. We'll, if you could loan them to us or gift them to us, we'll insure them. And, we'd love to work with you. So that's what happened. They flew me in. I loaned a couple of them, ended up gifting them eventually 4 of the artist proofs. And then I was invited to Monaco during F1. There was a big, I think Princess Charlene was having a charity event, and we were invited, and Prince Albert bid on the photograph and bought it.
That's nice.
He was my first client.
Oh, wow. That's pretty good for first client.
And then I was invited to Amphar in Milan, and Sharon Stone auctioned off. So there were some great things. And I exhibited at Art Basel, and that's when I came up with the idea of collaborating with another artist to paint on top of my photographs.
Yeah, that's how we met, through King Saldine. You had him collaborate with you in, I think, 2014 for the Portugal show.
That's right.
Which was
it
cool.
2014? No, I think it was 2015.
Maybe 2015.
Yeah.
That sounds about right. So in some of the other books, who are some other models or actors you shot that are memorable? Not asking for a favorite, just so we're clear.
I honestly, I have an eye for talent. And so I decided I wanted to choose actors who I thought were going to have longevity and who were in it for the right reasons.
So you got to choose the people you shot for your book, for these books?
Yes, I chose
them. Oh,
them.
wow. Okay. So this would be interesting. Mm-hmm. So who are some of these people you chose that you thought were going to have longevity in their careers?
Brad Pitt.
Heard of him.
Johnny Depp. Sandra Bullock, Keanu Reeves, Brendan Fraser, Robert Downey Jr.,
And these are young photos of them.
David Duchovny,
Wow.
Jared Leto. Yes, young photos.
You should
that's
be an
right.
agent.
I
You should be an agent.
I
think.
should have been
a
an
talent
agent.
I think you're in the wrong field.
Well,
That's
I
an all-star
was
cast
offered,
right there.
I was offered a job as an agent.
Oh, I see.
But I don't fit into the corporate world.
You would have had the
so-
best thing for these guys. Free headshots, and you could manage them. Because usually you can't afford headshots, so it's like the perfect situation for them. That'd have been great.
Yeah, so but I published books and I did these incredible interviews with them about their goals and dreams and fears and where they saw themselves. And so hopefully soon there's going to be an art documentary film about my life.
If you could create one project and there wasn't like money or anything blocking it, is there any like wish project you want to do with some of the IP you have? Or even something maybe totally different creatively?
I definitely want the Lost Warhols. They've gotten a lot of attention. I have amazing collectors, but I definitely feel that they need to be, that more people need to know about them and collect them.
So maybe like a big museum show for them? Would that be something? Or is it?
A big museum show, or I just feel that I need more exposure and young collectors for the Lost Warhols. And then, I also started the Gold Queen collection.
What's that?
I created art. People started calling me the Queen in the art
I
world.
can understand why.
I've collaborated with a lot of interesting people, not just King Saladin, but Chris Brown, Gregory Siff, Bradley Theodore, just a lot of amazing
artists.
Ad
creators.
Fuel from Portugal, Speedy Graffito from France. I do love street art, and that's kind of my influence. But yes, I would like to do more street art, and I would also definitely like to create sculptures and create the Gold Queen collection to support and empower women.
I like that. There's always room for that.
I'm big on the crowns, so it's queens
woman
and
should have one.
kings. It's kings and queens.
There you go.
So I want to develop that collection and really promote inclusion. I don't know, Warren, if you know that I had it was basically a passion project where I photographed different people who were gay, straight, older, younger, different ethnicities, and I put them all on a wall in the arts district that I was given.
Oh, I didn't know.
You didn't know that? Yeah. So I
Very
wheat
cool.
pasted, and I photographed everyone myself. This was in 2017, and I put them on the wall, and then I put crowns on everyone, and I painted over them, and I
Okay.
wrote inclusion. So
You were ahead of the game.
I was ahead of the game. I'm always
You
ahead of the
got
game.
an eye for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have anything coming up next or stuff you're working on towards the end of the year right now? Traveling? Anything?
I have four shows coming up. I have a show coming up in Mexico City. It's called Rediscovered Icon. That's going to be on October 23rd. I have a show at Art Basel at the Brown Jordan building. It's going to be the Lost Warhols, and it's a collaboration with Bradley Theodore, but we're also going to showcase some other Lost Warhols. And then I'm working with the Miami Shoe Museum.
What are you doing with them?
They have this technology of taking genes and lasering images. So we just did, I have to show you.
That sounds amazing.
So they lasered, there's an image that I haven't really put out of half me, half Andy.
Mm-hmm.
Our faces kind of match.
Oh, okay.
But they want to do a project with me and Andy. Andy started his career designing shoes or illustrating shoes for Harper's Bazaar.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So I'm doing something with them. And then there's interest in my story. So lots of things.
I'm sure there's a lot more to your story as well.
I curated the art at the East Miami in Brickell. And they have my 7-foot Gold Queen art. And they also have my Tupac piece that I did with Carl Kanai. I'm multifaceted, Oren.
I see that. You're creative.
I'm a creative, and I love collaboration, and I also love curating. So I'm just excited to keep going and inspire.
I have a question. Before you were talking about, you have these shows come up, 4 shows, and you travel a lot, and I know you have people help you out, but you're pretty much like a one woman army, one queen army. How do you deal with the pressures of timelines, creativity, this, that, everything? How does that work? I'm sure there's some times where you feel it's maybe not a burden, but it's a lot.
Look, I am an artist, and I do deal with mental health issues, 100%. A lot of times I have paranoia and fear, and is this going to work or it's not going to work, and my brain goes crazy on me. And the way I've dealt with it over the years is I've taken yoga classes, I sit down and I journal, I connect to higher power, I write down all my fears. And I'm called the queen, and sometimes I feel regal, and I know my power, but there are other times where I call her little Karen, little K. LK is the scared little child who feels unworthy and is scared that things aren't going to go well. Most recently, I've started to do something that I absolutely love. I cold plunge.
Okay. Before you figured out all this stuff, how to cope a bit and journaling all that, what was it that did someone tell you to do this stuff? You read about it? Like what made you? Because I'm sure at some point you weren't doing this at a certain age when you were feeling certain stresses. So what were you?
To be honest with you, I've been a photographer and an artist for a long time, and I was reading Lois Hay before she started Hay House. She actually cured herself of cancer, and she started, still on Instagram, even though she's passed. You hear these affirmations of learning to love yourself and doing affirmations. So I have been reading books for a long time, but this is a lifelong journey, is to stay centered and stay cleared. And especially being an artist and not having a steady job, there are a lot of uncertainties, and that can really play into insecurities. So it's really, really important to work the body out. I do the Wim Hof breathing. Breathing is a big thing.
How does that work? Show us.
Belly and chest. So
Okay.
deep breathing, but you do it for, I think, 3 rounds of 30.
Yeah.
And then now I'm just very lucky because in Miami they started this ice club. And so I get into 32-degree baths, and I get in, and I go, oh my God, it's cold. And then I just sit down, and I just remember that I just have to focus on the exhale. So it's, and then I'm just focusing on my breath, and then I can be in the cold, and then I just tell myself I'm warm, and I sit there for 3 minutes, and I can get through it.
That's probably amazing, right? When you're just focusing on that and there's nothing else in your head.
It's so beautiful.
There's nothing better than literally focusing on one thing and no worries, nothing else is there.
It's great.
I think not enough people do that, and they worry about all the stuff they don't have control of,
Yes.
And that's why people are anxious a lot, because they worry about the stuff they can't do anything about.
100%. And I had this Tibetan healer who I worked with, and he called it monkey mind.
I like that. I get that. Yeah.
But my monkey mind still goes crazy, and I just have to work on it.
I think everyone does. I think, like you said, it's a lifelong journey. I don't think there's anybody, I don't care how spiritual they are, that doesn't go through monkey mind at some point, because it's just like we're living life. Unless you're doing nothing with your life, literally.
Absolutely. Yeah. The monkey mind, the paranoia, am I lovable? Am I good enough? Am I going to be able to do it? Are they going to follow through? I mean, I'm a warrior. I really have to calm my mind. So I'm really enjoying this breath work and the ice, and it's just constant, and it's catching yourself, and it's work.
Yeah.
Just like working your body out. I'd gotten in really, really good shape because I had a trainer once a week for about 6 years. And so that's why I was able to have myself painted gold.
Oh, you had yourself
Naked
painted
and
gold.
gold.
Wow.
I don't believe in, I'm not at the gym for hours. I do targeted workouts. I do, reps,
Yeah.
small reps, just to get toned and to get healthy. And, we're at our computers a lot. So I do this thing to try and get my posture better. I don't know. It's fun.
Does that help you? I'm saying with like work and life a bit, like clearing your mind at all?
Oh,
Like to use it as a
absolutely.
tool. I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I can be really depressed, and I go down to the gym and work out a bit, and I feel better because, it brings out the endorphins.
Where
I
do you
need to do it more.
where do you draw inspiration from for projects that you bring back and for new ones?
I'm a conceptual artist, and I see trends. Um, I love collaboration, but I see things that people are going to like before they see it, like the male model thing. I also did, I don't know if you know, but I collaborated with the deceased sister of a guy who photographed Basquiat, where I put Basquiat and Andy together.
Okay, I remember seeing that. Yeah.
So, right, I have a collection called Kings, and I took the Basquiat crown and put it on both their heads. So they're art kings. They're an older king, a younger king, a black king, a white king, different levels of kingdom. And I just like the play on that. I saw something on Instagram where this naked woman was all coming out of like gold water and gold, and that's what inspired me to
Okay.
get myself painted gold.
You just said you did a thing with Basquiat and Warhol, like a half-half. Have you ever done anything else similar to that, like a half Andy, half anything else?
Yes, I had a boyfriend who I'm no longer with, but he was looking at a picture of me. And he was looking and looking, and he said, Karen, you should take half your face and half Andy's face and put them together because you guys look alike. There's similarity.
Did you think that when he told you that? Did you see that right away, or you had to like really like?
I
Like,
never saw it. I never saw it.
Do you
But
see it now?
I see it now.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because I had an intern who was working there, and I said to him, look, can you take this picture? And someone had just photographed me as Andy in a suit.
Oh,
So I
wow.
said, and also he had me do the exact position of my hands, as in the photograph that I took of Andy. So I said, can you take half this picture and half one of the pictures I took of Andy and put them together? And I was shocked
Yeah,
because our noses match, our chins match.
that's wild.
It's very wild.
I like that.
Yeah.
If you could collaborate with one person or even a company, whether existing or non-existent, like a dream collaboration, well, who or what would that be?
I want to do something with Louis Vuitton.
Okay, that's a good choice. Solid choice. They're still around, so that's good.
They're still around. I
They're
love
still-
Louis
they're still
Vuitton.
kicking.
I love Louis Vuitton. But I just collaborated with Shepard Fairey.
Okay.
That was something that I really wanted to do, and it happened organically. And we are going to do hoodies with our image. He did such a beautiful job with my image of Andy, and he was so appreciative. And he told me that he felt that my photograph of Andy, that there was a connection in the eyes that he had never seen, that he really related to. And that's what made him want to collaborate with me and create these two beautiful art pieces that are now in a museum, actually, in Stockholm.
Oh, amazing. How did you guys connect? Did you know Shepard already, or did someone connect you to, or you reached out? How'd that,
By the way, so they're called Warhol collages.
okay.
I met Shepard through Cleon Peterson, who used to work for him, who's now a huge artist in his own right. And I had wanted to collaborate with him, but I didn't really understand his methodology, that he basically did prints. And so we almost collaborated years ago, but it didn't happen. And then I ran into him in Miami, actually, in Wynwood Walls. And he's also, by the way, a really good DJ. So I've been to some events, and I've known him, I've seen him, we've talked. But I was with my dog, and I have these little stickers, and Shepard collects stickers, and he saw them on my phone, and he's like, Karen, can I have a couple of your stickers? And I said, sure, Shepard. So I said, I'm going to have to bring them to you. And I think he was doing a mural in Wynwood Walls. So I came back the next day, and I also brought him a small portrait of Andy, and I gifted him that. And then a couple months later, he emailed me and said, I've been looking at your portrait and I would love to collaborate.
That's beautiful. I love when that's beautiful. It's all natural like that. You give him a beautiful gift and then like touch him that much. That's awesome.
Yes, yes, it was organic, and
Yeah.
he's just such a pleasure. He's such a beautiful human.
I think that's how art has to be, especially with collaborations or anything. It's got to be organic and real because people could feel it otherwise if not. And that's probably why they're such amazing pieces, those collages, I bet.
They're so beautiful, and it's just such a pleasure to work with him. You know, honorable and fair, and but anyway, we sold out in 60 seconds.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I have some artist proofs that I'll probably be releasing, but the collection sold out. It was a huge success,
That's always
and
great.
I'm talking to him now about doing a wall in New York City,
Oh,
which he said he's going to look into. So
very nice. KB, if you weren't in the photography world doing what you do, what do you think it would have been for you?
definitely the art world. I have a lot of style now, so a lot of people think I'm in
I see.
fashion,
I love
and
this
so who knows? Maybe fashion is something I should get into at some point. I told you we're going to do the hoodies with Shepard, and I really would like to. I have the licensing rights to my images, so I'm excited to start doing more fashion.
You could probably explore a lot of cool stuff with that by having licensing, right? You know,
Yes,
playing around with
Oren,
images.
we
So
should
there-
talk about that.
Sure, let's do it.
But I also became an artist in my own right, and I did a couple murals on my own. I don't know if you know that I did a mural in Harlem all by myself.
A handful of years ago, I remember.
That's right,
Yeah.
2018, and
You were
then
with- You were with what's his name from Harlem, the very famous Dapper Dan.
Dapper Dan
Yeah, I remember
lost
that.
me. I had to
never-
ask permission.
Stop. Of course, we got to check in with the people. You know the rules.
Can you imagine?
Even the Queen does.
I mean, this is my life, Oren, okay? I was staying with this guy in Tribeca who we traded art for a room
Okay.
in a very fancy building. And I got to Tribeca and I get there, and first of all, there's this statue of gold crowns right in front of the building. And, you know, I told you I'm into crowns, right? And I was like, oh my God, like how crazy is this? And then I said to him, you know, I want a wall. I need a wall. I want to do my own wall. And he said, you know what? I've got a wall for you. And he takes me in his Range Rover and we drive up to Harlem. Mind you, I'm staying in Tribeca.
You didn't see that coming.
And he introduces me to this guy, Dard Coaxum, who was like a big guy up there and friends with Dapper Dan. And he says, you know, this is the wall. It's not a big wall, but we'd love to give it to you. What are your ideas? And I said, I want to do this kings and queens thing. I want to put Basquiat and Andy, and then I want to put queens on the other side, which will be my gold queen. And I did Queen Destiny. She was a black queen, and Girl with Hijab. And he said, okay, well, we just need to ask this one guy, you know, if what we have to share your concept with him. And it was Dapper Dan. So Dapper Dan, I had to meet Dap. He
Yeah.
came over and I showed him my images and he's like, yeah, I like it. I like it. And they actually, he and his sons and a bunch of other Harlem legends watched me.
Talk about pressure. That's
I was in my element. I had
Okay,
so much
focused.
fun. I had a couple helpers. We wheat pasted. We painted. I got the community to help me paint. I got everyone into it. It was really fun.
What are some of the other walls you've done? Or where are they?
I did a wall with Bradley Theodore in Soho. It's no longer there. Another Warhol. I've done a few. I also did an incredible wall at Blick on Beverly Boulevard in Los Angeles with Chris Brown.
Oh, wow. How was that?
It was amazing. I got Blick to give us the paint, and they gave me the wall, and I wheat pasted 3 Andys on this huge wall. I just worked it out with Chris. He and I did a serigraph, and we did a signing, and the guy who set it up got us king and queen chairs. So this whole king and queen thing,
Oh, wow.
there was like
Manifesting
a
it.
little bit of a theme. And while we were signing our 240 serigraphs, which we signed, Chris and I, that night at this amazing event, I said to him, you know, I got a wall. Are you interested in doing it with me? And he said, yes. So that's how we set it up. And I got the paint. He showed up with his bodyguard, just him and his bodyguard. That's it.
Oh, wow.
And me and my dog and my assistant. And I didn't call in any press. Actually, I'm really happy that some guys came down, and they were pressed, but they just published the photographs. I didn't bring any. I didn't bring in Access Hollywood or
Yeah.
anything. And it was a beautiful wall. If you Google Chris Brown and I, you're going to see the images. And that mural lived for 2 years. Chris and I actually did 5 artworks together. We've sold 3 of them. I usually do a 50-50 with most of the artists that I collaborate with. But then, as you know, a lot of times when a gallery sells it, they take 50%. So I want to do something special. He created this incredible purple Maryland canvas, and there's a little Andy in it. He just stuck little Andy somewhere in the hair, Marilyn's hair.
Like a clip? Like a hair clip? Kind of,
No,
or just
a
stuck
little photograph.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
honestly, it was funny. I gave him 2 images, and I think he wanted the big one, so the little one he just put in. And it's a blue Marilyn and an Andy, and it's got beautiful affirmations. It's a 48 by 48 canvas.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to SICK Film School about doing a sweepstake with this piece that Chris Brown and I did, so that some of the money will go towards the nonprofit part of supporting creativity in underprivileged kids.
Yeah.
To learn film, and I'm in the process of talking to Chris about that.
That's exciting.
$25, a chance to win 10 numbers, 10 chances. It's kind of like a lottery, but
Okay.
it's a lottery that will do good.
So this is happening, or you're working on it?
I'm in process,
In
but it
process.
is
Pending.
happening. It's pending,
Pending.
but I shall manifest this.
One way or another. So KB, do you have any advice for any creative people that, you think would help along the way or has helped you?
Education is wonderful, but it doesn't have to be education at a university. But definitely when you're passionate about something, learn about it, because the more you know, the more you can express. Like I used to read a lot of literature. I have a degree from NYU. I never used it, but I read a lot of philosophy. I've gone to so many art museums all over the world, and my knowledge of the masters, the old masters, the Van Goghs, the Monets, the Manets. I lived art, I breathed art, and it's just it's made me a more well-rounded artist that can appreciate both street art and abstract art, and just appreciate something that speaks to me. And the other thing I have to say is just getting back to resilience. You have to, a lot of people are going to try to stop you. They're going to try to put you down. And I always say the best revenge is success.
I totally agree. I think reading or getting education anyway is the best. Like you said it perfectly. It helps you express yourself in so many ways, whether it be verbally, body language, and people could tell when you know what you're talking about or what you're doing. And that's what I think really gets you further as well. And I think as an artist, I think looking at other artists is a big deal too. Whether you realize it or not, just taking in that one time can make a difference later on, whether you consciously realize it or subconsciously. Because I've seen it with other artists when they go somewhere, and I guess we'll call it inspiration or not, I'll see it a little bit in the work differently sometimes. And maybe they don't notice it, but they definitely internalized it. So I think those are 2 great pieces of advice. And definitely resilience. I think that goes for anything you do in life. You have to be resilient because you're going to get no's, and life is a roller coaster. So you have to be prepared for it and keep pushing. So I love that you said.
Absolutely. And I mean, the last thing I'll say is that I've always been big on being the art. I always say I am the art. And, I think however you express yourself through fashion or, wearing a red wig. Sometimes I cut my own wigs. I do have hair. I cut my own hair, but sometimes I'll do green or blue, and it's just an expression of art. And I get a lot of smiles on the street.
Is that a wake up and roll over and make decision, or is it like the night before you're like, I know what hair color, or is it on the weather? How does this work?
I match it a lot of times with my clothing
That
or
makes
my
sense.
shoes.
That makes sense.
But I get a lot of smiles, and I think that, when you feel comfortable in your own skin and you're authentic, then it makes people feel good. And they're like,
100%.
wow, okay, it's different, but she looks good. I like it.
I think it's the energy you give off when you're confident, like you said, and you feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
People feel it
Yeah.
when you walk in the room, 100%. Thanks for coming by
It's my pleasure.
and joining us at Hidden Gem Studio.
Thank you for inviting us, Hidden Gem.
Yes,
It's
thank you,
nice
Hidden
to
Gem.
be here.